Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94 here, back with another reaction video. Today, we finna react to WrestleMania 31 was that show. This should be interesting right here. WrestleMania 31, which I feel like was the last good WrestleMania until, what was it, 37? Yeah, 37, 36, 37, I don't remember. But I think that, yeah, this was definitely the last good WrestleMania because 32, 33, 34. Oh my God. Oh my God. Where's it at? Please play it for me.
Try it.
That shit is fucking trash, dog. Get the fuck off the airwaves.
Try it.
Vince was smoking on crack around that time or something. I don't know what the fuck that nigga was on. But anyways, though, WrestleMania 31 was definitely one of the last good WrestleManias. Ended off the night with a very good Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns match that ended with probably the best outcome you could have, the biggest swerve you could have did that night. Because they was going to boo the shit out of Roman Reigns. So, yeah, without further ado, man, let's get right into this.
The show of shows returns to California. Honestly, California and New York will be the best destinations for WrestleMania. These shows always have the best vibe, and for some reason, their identity matches WrestleMania. WrestleMania 31 was in the early days of the WWE Network, and to say this WrestleMania was overlooked would be a massive understatement. The build for this show was very dull and didn't leave you with the best feeling heading into the big event. WWE itself seemed very determined to make sure that Roman Reigns is the next big star in the face of the company, even at the risk of alienating fans. So when you have that as the biggest part of the show, it tends to carry over to the rest of it. With that said, WrestleMania 31 was held at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California on March 29th, 2015. 67,000 fans were in attendance, and the vibe of this show was just incredible and the best for me when it comes to the last 10 WrestleManias. The sun is out, the sky is blue, and Wrestling Premiere is here to do a review. Alright, that's too much. LL Cool J did the intro for the show, and LL Black performed America the Beautiful. The theme songs to the event were Rise by David Guetta and Money in the Power by Kid Ink. Two of the most 2014 songs ever, especially Money in the Power, but I think they fit the vibe very well. Alright, with that said, let's get into it. Okay. The first match is the Intercontinental Championship, a ladder match. Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler, Stardust, Luke Harper, Dean Ambrose, and R-Truth challenged Wade Barrett for the title. This is how you treat the IC title. The match was intense early on. Everyone was all over the place and trying to figure out this thing. Truth and Stardust dove over the top rope, followed by Ziggler being thrown and Harper completing the quartet. Ambrose had a need for the thrill and topped all of them with a dive off the ladder. There was a lot of great energy with this match, and the fans were very into it. For good reason. Bryan had the best reaction from the crowd, Harper was a brutal demon, Barrett was just trying to make good of all this chaos and get back his title, and there was a great moment here with a super kick from out of nowhere. Now a match like this could easily go awkward, but that was no issue here. Stardust brought out a strange ladder, probably from Mars or Walmart. Bad News broke the ladder and used the rungs to inflict damage, and these two were definitely not in this universe. These two were acting like proper weirdos here. Everything they did was full of intensity and at times didn't serve much to the match, but they're crazy. There was this big ass ladder, almost as big as Cody's push, that served the biggest spot in the match up to this point with a superplex from Bad News Barrett. They were all starting to take risks to actually win the match as opposed to acting like big dumbasses doing spots on the outside, but of course they got to because it's wrestling. And Harper at one point powerbombed Ambrose through a ladder. It was brutal and it all happened so fast. Zigzag from the top, and this match was hitting like crazy. Barrett brutalized Ziggler and Stardust with a bullhammer and they sold it like crazy. R-Truth was down, and just when Barrett had the title, Bryan comes in, big knee from the corner, and he had nobody and nothing in front of him. Bryan climbed up those tough rungs, step by step, and as he inched closer to the belt, Ziggler laid his claim. While he was tough, it was his natural position to fall victim to a main eventer. That's the story of Dolph Ziggler's career. Bryan pulled the belt down to become champion. This was a great opener and something that helped set the stage for the show. I also think that most of the guys in this match looked extra motivated. Harper was a lunatic, Ziggler had one of his best selling performances in a match, Barrett was probably the most normal person in this match and it showed, and Daniel Bryan winning here was supposed to give the title more honor and prestige, but he ended up being sidelined. But yeah, this is a great opener and you can't choose any other match to open the show other than this ladder match. It's the Apex Predator, the Viper, Randy Orton, and on the other side, the Architect, the Authorities plan.
I have to take it back from my previous video. I would like to take back a statement from my previous video. This right here is the greatest RKO of all time. this right here is the greatest RKO of all time.
And B, Seth Rollins. This feud, to put it simply, was Orton wrestling his younger self, but the story is more complex than that. Before his very eyes, Randy Orton realized how easily he could be replaced. Seth Rollins didn't walk down that road yet and lacked the wisdom to understand that the Authority aren't exactly loyal to their own. Randy Orton had become too much of a problem within the Authority and they didn't want to wait for the future. They immediately threw Orton to the side in favor of Seth Rollins, but he was too valuable to let go just yet, and after a behavior change, Orton was back. But he had ulterior motives. These motives went beyond just getting at Seth Rollins. It was about teaching him a lesson that only experience can teach. It was a solid build that did a good job in showing that Seth Rollins was the future of the WWE. Randy Orton was wearing elbow pads for the first time in about a decade and even had colored trunks for the first time since 2005. Rollins tried testing Orton early on, but learned that experience was important. He was trying to show off and use his speed as an advantage, and Randy Orton, on the other hand, was full of intensity and uppercuts. Rollins wasn't really doing much early on. J&J coming to buy their guy some time and even took a rough apron DDT. Suicide dive. This opening was very important for Seth Rollins and he made good on it and used Orton's slow pace against him. At this point, it was Orton who was messing up a lot. When Randy started building momentum, he was quickly stopped, but Rollins made the mistake of going for the stop. Big Pele kick on the apron and Rollins hit a beautiful springboard moonsault. He messed up on a backdrop in the ring and Orton was feeling great. It was WrestleMania. Crossbody rolled through into a near fall and Orton was unlocked. He hit the apron DDT and it was ferocious. It had a lot of venom to it. The RKO, nope. Rollins rolls over but finds himself in the same predicament. Boom. 1, 2, no. He was going for the punt and Noble made the save. Curb stomp off the distraction, but it still wasn't enough. So he tried going up top. Phoenix splash, nope. Off the failed attempt, Rollins has Orton stomp, nope. And off the air, 10 feet of the air or something. I don't know how to fucking count height and width. It probably was 10 feet. Orton catches him with the RKO, and this man looked like they injected him with some superpowers. Hell, he just might end that gorilla all by himself if he could in that minute. You know, I'm betting on WrestleMania 31 Orton to end that gorilla alone. 1, 2, 3. This match was very good. It was pretty distinctive to the other singles matches on the show and had a good story behind it. Rollins thinking he has all the answers, but he was never winning this match without the experience and wisdom that Randy Orton has. It's one of Orton's better matches from this time because his opponent was insanely hungry. It's pretty similar to the Orton and Ziggler matches from 2012, which is something to mention. I enjoyed it and they made sure to have a spectacular ending for WrestleMania. What's crazier is that if they had a couple of more minutes, this match would be praised more. But yeah, it was great performance here from Orton, one of his better performances in recent memory, and Seth Rollins was insanely hungry. I gotta praise his performance here. It kind of makes me, I want to say forget, but you have a certain image of 2015 Seth Rollins in your mind, but to actually watch him, yeah, there's a reason why he was one of my favorites at the time. The game against the icon Sting, a feud that had a very bad premise. The idea of Sting being the one to stand up to the Authority is perfect. After all, it was the barometer of good. But the issue with it is that the story had a strong focus on WCW and it turned into a company war for no reason. It didn't need to be that at all, and Sting even iterated this on one occasion, but WWE still made that the story. With that said, Sting in a WWE ring is pretty crazy. The fact that he was actually at WrestleMania is surreal in itself. Triple H had a special Terminator entrance and even had Arnold say it's time to play the game. It's always Triple H that has the coolest entrance at WrestleMania. He always has those entrances that make you think his piss could melt steel or something. Like, he always feels like the final boss. Other than his positioning, it's also the fact that his character is closely associated with Skulls and has a nickname of the Cerebral Assassin. Great atmosphere with this one. Both men were taking it slow, but Sting from out of nowhere upped the intensity and intimidated the game, who was overwhelmed. Triple H thought being aggressive would work in his favor, but little did he know. And Sting was just throwing him off his game. He had the match figured out here, and I only wish it ended a certain way. Stinger Splash wasn't to be on the barricade, and that was enough for Triple H to finally take control. JBL did that shilling, calling WCW small time, and Triple H in the ring was slowing down the pace. There's many DX references in this match, and when I mean references, I'm talking about the crotch chop. Sting gets caught with a spine buster after trying to find a way out of the struggle, and the commentary was so annoying talking about Sting and WCW like he wasn't facing the biggest stars in the history of this industry and that promotion. It was just dumb, like it kind of ruins the match. In the ring, Sting locks in the Scorpion Deathlock. DX suddenly interferes. He overwhelms the group and dives off the top rope. Sting was distracted and boom, pedigree. But it wasn't enough for the win. Then the New World Order came out. You know, this image perfectly sums up me playing an online game in 2025. It really does. Triple H took the Scorpion Death Drop but still kicked out and the crowd was going crazy. The NWO guys taking some of these spots really caught me off guard. Nash risking injury, Hogan risking death, and Hall taking a backdrop like it was 1994. It was crazy. In the ring, Triple H struggled with the deathlock, and right when Sting had him down, Shawn Michaels hit the sweet chin music. The fans were booing. Triple H almost Booker T Sting with that long ass count, but he kicked out. These guys were wrestling on pure vibes, and watching it here, I was actually hoping Sting would win, even though I knew how the story would go.
This shit was, I ain't gonna lie, this match right here was, I gotta say what it is, bro.
Try it. Try it. Try it.
I'm sorry, but this was not a good match, bro. This match, you could have took this off WrestleMania 31, and WrestleMania 31 was still been good. Probably would have been 10 times better. You could literally eliminate this match, if we being honest here. This was not a good match, and the outcome, once again, Triple H.
Try it.
That shit is fucking trash, dog. Get the fuck off the airwaves.
Sting destroyed Triple H's greatest weapon and laid the shots into him. Stinger splash, but then he walked into the sledgehammer. 1, 2, 3. Ah, hell no. I can't lie though, I like this match way more than I did the last time I watched it. The last time I watched this was 2016 because I watched the entire event, and my memory of this match is that it was dull and carried by the moments. Now, was it carried by the moments? Yeah, but I was actually into the match even before the run-ins, and the reason why is because there's a special novelty with Sting in a WWE ring. Also, the fact that he was wrestling fast and comfortably hitting drop kicks and switching the pace of the match at a moment's notice. I hated how the feud was presented in a WWE versus WCW way, with JBL saying WWE won the war and all that nonsense, but I can't say that I hated the run-ins. Even if Sting was the biggest enemy of the NWOs, I loved it. It was great vibes, and I'm glad to see that my opinion on this match changed. As the years went by, I learned to appreciate some of Triple H's later matches. I didn't used to enjoy a bunch of his matches from the later years, but it's a throwback. It takes you back to that time where JR was calling a main event and you'd see the traditional story being told in the middle of the ring. With that said, I think Sting should have won. It's not just, oh, Sting wins, blah, 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 but because there's meaning to it. But because it would mean WCW would win, and because Triple H was apparently facing The Rock, which he didn't face Rock because Rock gets to do whatever he wants, unlike Triple H and the rest of the commoners. They had a good story with Sting having a disdain for corrupt authority, and naturally, if that's the story they're telling, then he wins. At the end of the day, WWE for the most part will have you struggle initially before pushing you. They did it to Hogan in 2002, they did it to Brock when he returned in 2012, and Sting is another example of such. I will say I don't like the fact that he shook his hand with the story they were telling, but wasn't exactly Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. It's more of a Legends thing. It's a small thing. I gotta mention that I didn't really like. In the back, Daniel Bryan was met with many classic Intercontinental Champions. This was one of the last appearances Roddy Piper made in WWE, which is unfortunate. And oh my god, is that belt so good. Like, I'm just looking at that belt. I'd keep that belt around for 100 years. Maybe for eternity, but WWE had other plans. Bret Hart had the best reaction from the Legends, and Ron Simmons crashed the party for a single moment. Yeah, this is one of those segments that was missing from the last WrestleMania. We just get the Legends just for something to acknowledge a current wrestler. We didn't get that for WrestleMania 41, which I thought was odd, but TKO's gonna TKO, so there's that. They got Skylar Grey, Travis Barker, and Kid Ink out here. Music performances for the most part on wrestling shows are kind of awkward. I just wanted to mention this one. Both the theme songs for WrestleMania were performed here, and they got Travis Barker for some live drums. Enemies turned best friends. Paige and AJ Lee face the reformed Bella Twins. I always forgot how huge Paige was back in 2014 and 15. She was easily a candidate for one of the all-time great women's wrestlers ever, and she had a huge advantage at that time because she was so young. AJ Lee was still around here and showed no signs of slowing down. The Bella Twins had a very messy breakup, and even though I wasn't a fan of their feud, I hate how they quickly reformed without a proper build-up. Like, yeah, they're twins and sisters and whatever, but there wasn't even a single moment there. Brie just morphed back into being her sister's best friend. With that said, let's get into it. Okay, Paige quickly goes on the attack. Nikki did a good job of matching that intensity and dropping Paige with an Alabama slam. Brie's in with a missile dropkick, and she takes care of Paige while AJ's missing after being knocked off the apron. The Bellas' tag team experience shined here, and AJ was knocked out like one of those referee bumps. Brie completed the trifecta of AJ apron attacks, and back in the ring, Nikki hits an impactful spine buster. Brutal rack attack, but Paige kicked out. Big mistake from Brie here, which leads to a rollover on the outside. Paige finally tagged in AJ, and she was all over the place and practically had crackhead offense. If you're wondering what crackhead offense is, you just hit anything and everything, and you practically take no damage. The momentum had shifted in AJ and Paige's favor, with Nikki having zero answer to this. Black Widow, nope. Nikki delivered a strong blow that almost scored the victory. Paige deals with Brie, and back of the ring, AJ makes Nikki tap out with a Black Widow. Good match. It wasn't fully clear at the time, but it seemed like the women's roster was beginning to offer a lot more to their matches. There wasn't a women's match at WrestleMania 29. 30 had a very rushed and messy multi-woman match. Here, though, it was an enjoyable tag team match, and I don't have a single problem with it. The time given was made the most of, it flowed well, there was no awkward moments, and for a 6-minute match, they made it seem like 12 in the best way possible. This ended up being one of AJ's last appearances, and it was her last appearance on pay-per-view and at WrestleMania. I think AJ was a huge loss for the women's division. She played a strong part in the shift, having 2 good rivalries with Caitlyn and Paige. These 2 feuds were the most attention the women's division had in years, so it was very unfortunate that she left. You guys gotta remember, AJ Lee was very popular in 2013 and 14. A title of great importance to the citizens of the United States. Alright, that's too much. We're doing too much here. A great title though. The United States Championship. John Cena, the challenger, faces the champion, Rusev. For once, it's great to see Cena challenge for a mid-card title. Rusev had casted terror upon the WWE with his inflammatory statements towards the US. And you guys know, John Cena's pride is challenged when it comes to insulting the flag. You may as well insult him because you're gonna get the same consequences. Rusev's first WrestleMania, and he was facing John Cena. Incredible accomplishment, and it has to be said. His entrance was even better. He had a Russian military entrance that highlighted his pride and appreciation for his own country. It's silly he's from Bulgaria, but that's not the point here. You know, it's not the point. Even they acknowledge he's from Bulgaria, but he reps Russia. In a nutshell, it was a crazy entrance. Apparently, and this is what Rusev himself said, he had intercourse in the tank with Lana, so the cannons on the stage weren't the only thing shooting. Alright, let's move on. John Cena with the USA behind him is almost like a cheat code, but he ended up getting booed, so it doesn't mean much. They're gonna boo Rusev, but they're gonna boo John Cena as well because his name is John Cena. Now, we didn't know it at the time, but this ended up being the start of an iconic run for Cena, a 3-year run that would cement his place in wrestling history. I love how they used to measure Rusev in kilos. Small thing, but it was very nice. He was the undefeated champion. Okay, let's go. Cena hit a clothesline from out of nowhere. Rusev responds with an impactful spinning heel kick, and there was a great energy from Rusev. It's like he competed in this big event before. Very fast, very agile, could rethink his approach at a moment's notice. I'm glazing like crazy, but I liked him here. Cena was being humbled and overwhelmed like crazy. And now the fans didn't like Cena, but Rusev brought out the flag and they're booing. And there's the opening. All of a sudden, it's like Rusev transformed it to Heath Slater. He's got no answer for John Cena. The AA wasn't to be, and Rusev hit an Olympic slam. Big sidewalk slam from Rusev for a near fall. He got ahead of himself, leading to the leg drop from the top rope from John Cena. Let's go, Lana chant intensifies, and I get it, let's be honest. We get it. And there's the big kick. Then we started seeing more from John Cena. Tornado DDT from the corner for a near fall, and both men traded blows with Rusev having the edge. It was starting to become an even bigger problem for John Cena at this point, as he wasn't tiring out and had plenty of moves in his arsenal. From out of nowhere, Cena with STF. Lana threw her shoe in the ring, but there was reasons behind it. It was a ploy of sorts to distract the ref, but it didn't work. Rusev hit a flying headbutt, and it's understandable. It's the magic in the air. It's WrestleMania. You had to find a way to win this match by any means possible. He had enough and finally went for the accolade. That wasn't to be, and Cena randomly went for a springboard stunner. Let's pause for a moment. It was so weird to see this man of all people on the WWE roster bouncing off the ropes. They traded.
Yeah, this was Cena in his bag. Like Cena, like, bruh, 2015 Cena over damn near every other Cena, because he was in his bag right here. This dude was doing sunset flip, power bombs and shit like that. This dude was doing hurricanranas and all type of shit. It's like, where did John Cena get all this from? He was, bruh. Cena was in his bag in 2015, bruh.
Attempts, and this leads to a brutal slam, a stomp, and the accolade. Cena was trapped. He had nowhere to go, and at one point his face had no hope in escaping, but his body was a different story. Rusev couldn't believe someone broke his accolade and got locked in the STF. Lana runs in, Rusev gets distracted, and boom, Cena hits the AA 1, 2, 3, new champion. This was a very good match. It felt like Rusev had this massive advantage to us. Wait, what the hell did I write here? Disregard that. But basically, let me explain this simply. It felt like Rusev had a size advantage and also had a wrestling advantage in the way he was wrestling, because he was wrestling like he weighs 220. Rusev was unlike a challenge Cena had faced recently, and I liked how the match was laid out. I know that if it happened in 2010, it would have sucked, and Rusev would be presented in a much narrower and simpler way as a strong big man, a big man with no edge or unique attributes. You know, he'd just dominate, he'd beat up John Cena, and he'd come back for the win. That wasn't the case here. Rusev was a man that didn't tire out and had a lot to offer. I think this was great because it took Cena a distraction to win it. He could have made him tap out, but in storyline, Rusev definitely had more tricks in his sleeve if the match had continued. I'm talking about Rusev so much because his presentation was so amazing for somebody wrestling in their first WrestleMania. Unlike Bray the previous year, this man didn't need mind games. He almost won the match because of his competitive spirit. The springboard stunner was so surprising and weird, and that's a move you'd see somebody like Seth Rollins or Rey Mysterio do, as opposed to John Cena, who seemed set in his ways after 10 years. The last person you're expecting to change things up. He literally had no reason to start balling like he did. Now, with regards to the result, result, Rusev was bound to lose. I think for the purpose of that title, it makes sense for Cena to win. Like, in a nutshell, when you look at this moment, it's like, oh, Rusev should win. But then we look into the future, it's like, oh, US challenge. And I'm not about to trade the US title challenge for a Rusev title ring. I like Rusev, but I'm not about to do that. He automatically makes the title more valuable just by holding it. On the other side of this title reign, as much as I would prefer for John Cena to win here, I don't like what they did with Rusev after WrestleMania, if you guys understand. Like, after WrestleMania, things changed for him. And some people will be like, you could say that this moment was where everything changed for him, which honestly, it did. But I still personally would have had the US title reign with John Cena. With that said, I don't hear much talk about this match, but I think I liked it a lot more than others. Rusev's performance in his role as a villain makes this match for me enjoyable stuff. The Authority came out to give attendance numbers. After taking a lot of credit for the success of WWE, they began bragging. After taking a lot of credit for the success of WWE, Triple H was talking about owning everyone and how the Authority always wins. All of a sudden, The Rock interrupted. The game was staring like, how could you interrupt my little moment? After having only a measly 25-minute segment earlier with Sting, The Rock interrupts my moment. These two had a very tense moment with Triple H saying he's beaten Rock before, so there's nothing left to prove. Rock pushed Stephanie's buttons and walked away after he got slapped, only to bring in Ronda Rousey. Now, this was prime Ronda Rousey at the height of her popularity and UFC career, so it was a big deal. You know, you guys gotta remember, Ronda Rousey's debut was already a big deal in 2018, but this was a big deal as well because she was one of the most famous woman athletes in the world at that time. The rest of the horsewomen were there: Shayna Baszler, Marina Shafir, and Rock found his equalizer. Triple H had enough of this nonsense and Rock unloaded on the game. He even sold for Ronda at one point, making her look like one of the most dangerous people in the world, which she was at the time. Stephanie was like one of those kids swimming in the deep part of the ocean, but she was let off the hook with some mercy though. This segment was pretty long. Fans reacted well to it. We got to look at it from that time period. Ronda Rousey was incredibly popular, and Rock was at one of the peaks of his movie career, and the hype for Rock and Triple H was real. Everyone was convinced it would happen because of the teases, that segment they had at SmackDown the previous year, but it wasn't to be. The Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt faces the Phenom, The Undertaker. In another world, this would have been the WrestleMania 30 match. The Undertaker hadn't appeared in WWE since the end of the streak. Bray Wyatt's goal is to take what's left of the dead man. This is another great promo with Shaman's Harvest, and this match obviously belonged at night, but that wasn't gonna happen. Wyatt was determined and very impatient. This hurt him. Plenty of intensity and aggression from the dead man. There's zero offense from him. Clothesline from out of nowhere allows for Bray to finally make his mark on the match. While Undertaker didn't have many problems with the match, Bray's youth would steer him in the right direction. As good as The Undertaker was, he was broken down. Bray Wyatt had his way when it came to this part of the match, and he was very intense and battered Undertaker badly, but that wasn't what he wanted. He wanted the victory. Bray smashed his head into the ring post, and it felt like we were watching a weaker version of The Undertaker. The man everyone knew hadn't been seen since WrestleMania 29. Big Uranage followed by an impactful splash. Sister Abigail wasn't to be, and Undertaker finally rebounded with a chokeslam. He was brutalized, but still had enough to attempt the tombstone. He hits it. 1, 2, no. He had this look of disbelief on his face. Hey, video games are a nice pastime. Wyatt responds with Sister Abigail, but it didn't get him the victory. Face of fear against the dead man, and this was one of the best images from the entire show. Both men were destroyed. They traded blows with the younger Bray Wyatt having a clear advantage, and at this point, he should know taunting Undertaker's like saying the word union in a locker room. Undertaker quickly recovered and hit the tombstone pile driver. 1, 2, 3. Better match than last year, but the issue with this is that The Undertaker wasn't the same anymore, and that hurts the match because they told a good story in there. Like, honestly, talking about this match from a certain perspective, they had a great story in there. It's just Undertaker was too broken to execute it to make good on his end, and it hurts the match a bit. This would have been better if Undertaker was capable of more. Also, Bray Wyatt has a better chance of fighting Gordon Ramsay cooking for catering backstage than getting a big win in an important feud, so there's that. At the main event, Brock Lesnar defends the WWE World Heavyweight Championship against Roman Reigns, the big match that had a lot of pessimism. Roman winning the Rumble and getting this huge match wasn't exactly the best idea. This is the only match WWE had long-term plans for dating back to WrestleMania 30. Now, the issue with Reigns was he didn't show much in the character department. It was too similar to John Cena. This was Roman's first singles match at WrestleMania, and it was the main event. Roman Reigns had this fierce look of unwavering confidence on his face, but little did he know that he would get bitched. The sun descending on this part of the earth at the perfect time, and atmosphere-wise, it was a perfect main event. Right out of the gate, Roman goes on the attack. For Brock, it was simple work. He was cut, but still hit a German and an F5. He didn't even care about getting the win at that moment. And at this point, Roman was in for a miserable experience. Big overthrow, and Reigns was just crawling around realizing that this ain't no 6-man tag team match. Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose are on the apron. Brock Lesnar was incredibly overwhelming for Roman Reigns. This man turned into RoboCop or something because he was just indestructible. He was tossed around like he was a jobber while Brock was shouting, "Suplex City, bitch."
Suplex City, Suplex City. bitch.
Roman Reigns was beaten, victimized, and all that was left was the conquering. What a humbling experience. Lesnar was so far ahead of Reigns, and this guy was struggling to breathe and crawling around, not realizing he's in the main event of WrestleMania. He had this small moment here, but Brock clotheslined him like his name was Frank Mir. That clothesline had venom in it. He might have actually hated him for real. Back in the ring, Brock suplexed him out of the ring. I don't think there's a single match before this where Roman bumped as much as he did here. And there's the F5. 1, 2, no. And it was gloves off. At this point, it was about embarrassing Roman Reigns. He was laughing at some points, but Brock quickly put that smile away with repeated Germans and another F5. This didn't give him the 3, and Brock was starting to get frustrated. Reigns' resiliency was starting to get on Brock's nerve like never before. Big mistake with the ring post, and Brock is bleeding the hard way. Or is he? I don't know, but he's bleeding regardless. At the end of the day, regardless of what happened in those split seconds, he is bleeding. Superman punch. The belief is growing, and there's another one. Lesnar is stunned. Roman remembered he's Samoan. He's got a super push in his pocket, and he hit a spear. And there's the second. 1, 2, no. This match had a slow burn, and when it all started, it explodes in an insane way. The Superman punch wasn't to be, and there's the F5. Okay, at this point, it was anybody's match. Who's it gonna be? Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns? Who's gonna walk out of here with the WWE World Heavyweight Championship? Oh, Seth Rollins comes in and cashes in Money in the Bank to make it a triple threat match. Curb stomp on Brock, but he's getting up. No wonder people are petitioning for him to face the gorilla. I could see it. Another, nope, Rollins is caught. Reigns to the rescue, and Brock sends him flying. Reigns is still stunned, and Rollins capitalizes with the curb stomp. 1, 2, 3, new champion. Seth Rollins becomes the ultimate opportunist on the Ultimate Wrestling show in the most brutal main event in years. What a wonderful moment. It all tied into the Shield story with Seth ruining everything for Reigns a second time in his career. The first being the entire reason why he became Money in the Bank, you know, the moment where he turned on his Shield brothers. And Seth Rollins crashing Roman's coronation is of course a part of a much bigger plan than just WrestleMania 31. It's a story they're still telling today. I'll get to that in a moment, but with regards to this match, it was spectacular. With zero hope from many, the only way is up. They grabbed your attention from the beginning with Reigns being mauled and obliterated by his toughest challenger. That story was amazing because for weeks, Reigns has zero doubts in his mind that he would become champion. It also forced him to become his most resilient and channel deep down inside to keep himself in the match. Having any substantial offense was very far out, about as far out as his Hollywood aspirations. Brock was a schoolyard bully with no valuable goal other than to humble Reigns, who for weeks was talking about having an answer to his reign of dominance. It was a rough and hard-hitting match that tested Reigns' resiliency and resolve. At one point when he was on the apron, I was thinking of Mick Foley because this guy was laughing at one moment and getting bitched the next. Brock Lesnar at some points felt invincible. Forget 99 overall, this beast looked 109 overall, and this match wasn't Roman overcoming odds, it was Brock screwing himself over. He didn't take the challenge too serious and it led to the ring post. Brock not tightening up on his defense was the one thing that Roman needed, and that grand finale with Reigns growing into the match more was incredible because it wasn't a Super Cena comeback. Brock was too passive, and Reigns decided on his very best shots immediately. He wasn't building up or anything, he's like, let's go all out. The falls were convincing if you were watching in 2015, and this match, I gotta tell you guys, this match on my first watch was too damn good. It might have been 5 stars for me, and that's important to mention. Like, you have to see this match from a 2015 perspective. If you watched it from that time period, you'll know how good it truly was, because every time you watch it now, it doesn't feel the same. There was a certain magic when you watched it the first time because of it all happening live, and while the match is great here, you don't feel the same ways you did the first time you watched it. The layout was out of this world. I think the point of a WrestleMania main event is to cast doubts on each competitor to the point where you can't guess with your life who would win. And this match did a perfect job of leaving things so open. That's a great thing to have in a match. Ironically, Roman Reigns has to be acknowledged here. He sold so well for Brock Lesnar, and you guys know the old saying, a main eventer almost shouldn't sell that well for somebody. This guy was doing extra things here, and when he did find himself back in the match, there was this look of disbelief on his face, like, I'm still in this, and he was amazed that he had Brock in position for the spear. It's the small things. I have a lot of respect for this match. It over-delivered like crazy and followed a very logical story, with Brock being a behemoth as opposed to him and Roman trading momentum like it's a basketball game. This was the Heat versus the Cavaliers for 90% of the match, as it should be. It will always be one of my favorite WrestleMania main events because it followed an entirely different formula for a WrestleMania main event. The atmosphere was perfect and it was already a great match, but that cash-in elevates it even further. Not many could guess that Seth Rollins would cash in on this night. It's too crazy to think about. A cash-in during a WrestleMania main event? What are you, crazy? Seth, as a sleazy opportunist, was perfect. He snatched the title from both these men who tried killing each other with German suplexes and Superman punches. He did nothing but took all the credit, as all that mattered was the ultimate prize, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. It all came together, and it's a top 5 favorite WrestleMania main event for me. It just might be a top 5 WrestleMania match ever for me, and that's saying something. There's a magic with Brock and Roman here that they always tried to replicate but failed. It came naturally here because of Roman's status as the uncrowned champion. That story doesn't work work in the future, and when they switched roles, their matches were always messy and all over the place, barring their last one. Roman never experienced the toughest tests in 2015. 2018, it was far more established, and that match had horrible structuring and unnecessary finisher kickouts. Blood in this match was refreshing and a massive reward or punishment for the wrestlers after that aggressive and brutal match. Rounds winning here opened up a lot of possibilities, and there was many things: Roman retaliating and going after him, Brock turning face, and Seth learning how hard it is to keep the title. The best match on the show, and something that certifies this as one of my favorite WrestleManias ever. We said everything there is to say about that match. Except Brock selling. Brock selling was great, but you guys know I love that match. I wouldn't be spending all this time yapping about this match if I didn't like it. With that said, WrestleMania 31 is a massive surprise when you look at it from a 2015 perspective. The build wasn't that inspiring, so to see the show actually deliver from the atmosphere, the crowd, the matches, the stories that are unfolding, it's a great surprise. And one of the things I learned about watching this event again is that I didn't like it enough. I like it even more now. I already liked WrestleMania 31 before watching the event again, but after watching it here, yeah, this has to be one of my favorite WrestleManias of all time. It's a vibe. It's really an incredible vibe, and even if they had 100 matches on here, they'd find a way to make it good because they were immune from having a bad event on this night. It just wasn't.
2015, I said this before and I'll say this again. 2015 WWE, the in-ring work for 2015 WWE was phenomenal. Damn near every match was a hit this year. Damn near. I say a good 70 to 75% of matches from this year alone was good. They had some duds for sure, but they had way more hits this year. This is why this was my last year with WWE, because while the build up to matches were terrible, the matches themselves were great. So if you ask me, this was probably the last good WrestleMania until we got to 2021, which I think was 36 or 37. I don't remember. But anyways, though, that's just gonna about do it for this one. Most definitely. The match with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, that was probably the best one by far. Up until Seth cashed in, then it became 10 times. It became 10 times better. But yeah, man, WrestleMania 31 is definitely that show for real. Going back and looking at it's pretty good, minus the Triple H and Sting match. That shit, I'll never forgive them for that match. That match was terrible. But yeah, every other match was fire though. Every match told its story. Every match did its purpose. And yeah, WrestleMania 31, man, was one of them ones for real. But anyway, so that's just gonna about do it for this one. I'll see y'all in the next video. Till then, peace out.